I like Hallmark and I like Steven Weber, so I was looking forward to Tom, Dick and Harriet. This was released in 2013. It's directed by Kristoffer Tabori. It's written by Ken Krauss. And of course, we have a cast including Steven Weber as Tom. We also have Andrew Francis as Dick and Michelle Harrison as Harriet. And Tom works for an advertising agency, but he's a little bit older than some of the other employees. And at least from their perspective, he's no longer on the ball. He's no longer top of the game because the industry moves very quickly. And yeah, honestly, I can relate to it. I'm not quite that age yet. I'm 32, just 2 weeks off of being 33. But even at this age, I have younger colleagues who definitely use vocabulary I'm not fully up to date with. So I can certainly relate to that. And if you're of a certain age, I think you'll be able to get some joy out of it, but also some frustration as well, because it seems like a unfortunately, very realistic situation where people will be aged out of their job. And Tom isn't going to let that happen. So what he does is he hires Dick. And Dick stopped him on the street randomly. He was a stranger, and he tries to scam him with a pretty classic scam. And Tom realizes that he might be able to help him navigate this world as a younger person, and he hires him to help him in I have to say, quite a creative way. But there are some problems. It's not all plain sailing. And I think this is also called, according to the artwork on IMDb, it's also called All's Fair in Love and Advertising. And the reason things become complicated is because, well, somebody potentially falls in love with somebody else. So we have some romantic feelings between some characters, maybe making things a little bit more complicated. Plus, the big question is, will Tom get away with this? And if not, what will happen? I had a lot of questions. I was keen to find out what would happen. And in general, I thought it was a pretty decent narrative. That's not to say it's perfect all of the way through. It's not tremendously long. It's about an hour and 25 minutes, maybe an hour and a half. And I feel like the time was absolutely fine. It never felt like it was dragging or anything. But there were definitely times where I wasn't as engaged with it as I perhaps would have liked to have been. But for the most part, I thought the narrative was well handled. The characters are very well written. I think it's very, very thought-provoking, particularly because Tom's not even that old. But it does seem like with this film, advertising is a younger person's game, particularly if you're advertising products to younger people. But we have some really interesting and fresh perspectives here, and I really like that. And Steven Weber was as brilliant as I knew he would be. And in general, I have no complaints. It may not be perfect from start to finish, but in general, I thought Tom, Dick and Harriet was a really enjoyable film. Steven Weber was great. The characters were well written. It's definitely an interesting concept. And in general, I'd say it's well executed. If it sounds like something that might appeal to you, then needless to say, I'm very happy to recommend it.